the 12th of November 2019. Tuesday begun with focus turning to events in Hong Kong as clashes between protesters and police escalate. Police have warned that the rule of law has been pushed to the brink of total collapse. Markets are nervous but unsure how to react, with little effect thus far on FX or equities. In fact, the Hang Seng index closed up just over half a percentage point higher on the day. However, the potential reaction from China and any subsequent international response is a growing cause for concern. So it's definitely something to watch over the coming days. It's probably been on everyone's radar now for 3 or 4 months, but things definitely seem to be getting worse over there. For the FX markets, the start to Tuesday was highlighted by a general dollar strengthening. Euro dollar initially traded down to 110.03 in Europe as a weak German zoo current conditions reading weighed on the single currency. Sterling also gave back some of yesterday's gains, heading as low as 128.16 at one point. Gains in both Asian and European equity markets were enough to send dollar yen higher, up to a high of 109.29. So as US Day begins, equity futures are pointing to a slightly higher open, and indeed that's exactly what we got. But for FX, other than sterling having one push to 128.5, it was a very quiet US morning. All eyes and ears were set for President Trump's speech at the New York Economic Club at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Prior to Mr. Trump's speech, we got a YouGov poll from the UK suggesting that the Conservatives would get 42% of the vote at the general election, and Labour would only get 28%. This is a far wider margin than we have seen in previous polls, and that gave sterling a boost, jumping from 128.45 up to 128.75. The president's speech at the Economic Club in New York was fairly predictable. Plenty of self-acclaim around his own achievements for the economy and stock market, etc., and some not so subtle digs at the Federal Reserve. His Fed bashing helps to weaken the dollar. A couple of spreads: dollar yen down to 108.95 and euro briefly up to 110.20. Equities also turned negative, not by a whole lot. The Dow falls down about 30 points, and we see gold jumping up to 1460. If the market was hoping for some fireworks from the US president and some affirmation of the progress in trade talks, they did not get them. In the end, the Dow Jones closes flat on the day as the S&P and Nasdaq both eke out some minor gains. Euro dollar ends at 110.10, dollar yen at 108.95, and cable at 128.5. Gold closes just off its highs at 1458.50. Once again, not the most exciting of days. Maybe tomorrow's testimony from Fed Chairman Powell will liven things up. I have no doubt it will probably induce a tweet or two from the US president. And before that, we also have some US CPI data, which also may get the markets moving a little quicker than we've seen today. For today's technical piece, everyone's favorite, Eurodollar. We saw a slow and gradual drift lower today for the single currency, and although we failed to touch support at 110, the bounce has been fairly muted. That brief move up to 110.20 was about as much as we got. As you can see from this hourly chart, we have a bit of a band of support here, just below 110, sort of between 109.90 and 110. The figure made up of some previous highs here, and the previous low we have here around 109.91. Well, the current direction, as you can see, obviously is lower as we come off these highs we've made up here between 111.75 and 111.80. Clearly as I said, the direction is lower, but the momentum, it's been fairly slow. It's quite a gradual drift lower we've seen, today, fairly typical of that. So keep an eye on this band of support. A break lower might see a break lower through here, may well see a bit of an acceleration of the sell-off, and maybe test some of these previous lows here, the most notable of which would be down here at 108.80. But for now, we have to respect this this level of support here, just under 110. And with that, I wish you all the best of luck. Hope you had a good day trading, and we can do it all again tomorrow. Cheers.